That's right. And thank you, Katie, the woman with so many talents, for giving us that weather hit. Right now, we're going to jump into our next segment with our live guest, Blythe Brumleve, host of Cyberly. Blythe, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you guys for having me. Happy to be here.
So, Blythe, just jumping into it, let's talk about the Marshall Plan. What is it? When did it get started? And how is it kind of starting to change and shift with the current environment?
So the Marshall Plan for moms is, I mean, obviously there's been a ton of debate over the last week about, motherhood and exploring motherhood before you actually give birth. And so I won't touch on that debate, but on what's not the conversation that isn't happening enough is as we talk about returning back to the office, as we talk about, hybrid work environments, there really is a gap in a lot of these plans on how we're helping mothers return to the workforce after they've had a baby. And the reality is that there are a lot of existing gaps all across the workspace from the corporate America to sort of low income workers. How are we helping moms be able to adjust to a new life, a working life, and with a baby? For the overwhelming majority of moms, I think it was 47% of moms left the workforce after COVID because they're taking they're taking care of the children at home. They're trying to manage working the job and then also taking care of the children. And so as we're having these discussions about returning back to work, a lot of what is missing is how are we accommodating moms? And there's a lot of companies that are making a lot of debates on what they're going to how they're going to help women before they have a baby, but not enough companies are talking about how they're going to help women after the baby is actually here. So a lack of social safety nets, a lack of affordable childcare, and also a set schedule. I think for a lot of moms, especially in the service-based industries, not having a regular schedule in order to be able to afford and organize the childcare aspect of being able to return to work. A lot of those conversations aren't happening, and the Marshall Plan for Moms was created by Rishma, who is the CEO of Girls Who Code. So this is sort of her next life mission, is to make sure that both the public and the private sector are really creating accommodating solutions for moms to re-enter the workforce because they're tasked with so many different jobs.
I think this is so important, especially because one of the biggest barriers to motherhood and to the decision to become a mother is often the fact of, why should I do this when I have no guaranteed paid maternity leave? Why should I do this when, if I take this job and then I say, you know what, I've made the choice to become pregnant, I'm going to have a baby, I can't be guaranteed that my job will be there when I come back. Even that, or you've got companies that are only saying, you know what, we'll give you 6 weeks of time off, but you have to bank out of your PTO to do this, right? And it's something that I think is a sticky situation to talk about, but it shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be taboo. So when we sit there and we talk about these types of solutions, we're seeing some companies that are stepping up and that are doing good things, like providing paid maternity leave opportunities, providing paid paternity leave opportunities as well for those fathers who are coming out and saying, you know what, you'll have the opportunity to take care of your child as well. Blythe, when we talk about this, are you seeing do you have any of those specific companies that you can talk to us about, or do you see anyone that's doing it really, really well and kind of publicizing their plans to support both mothers and fathers really well?
No, the sad thing is that a lot of companies are not talking about this. They're talking about returning to work and making hybrid environments and hybrid work weeks, but they're not talking about the root of the issue of why someone would need to stay home and actually take care of the children. And it's not just women. There are a lot of single mothers out there, of course, but on the fathership, on the father side of things, the average, I think it's something like 70% of men take 10 days or less of their paternity leave, mostly because societal structures and he has to go back to work. So what that leaves is that the mother is at home and she's the one having to decide on, well, who does the laundry, who does the cooking, can I still actually do my job in addition to raising a human being and taking care of a little baby that's 100% dependent on me. So a lot of companies are not talking about this, especially as we start seeing all of the different solutions and how I was watching a video this morning about how this new headquarters in Los Angeles specialists, and they're planning all of these different work environments to make sure that, if you need to go on camera, if you need to do a quick Zoom interview, that you can have a nice, pretty background, when the conversation is not being had around why a woman would not be able to return to that workplace in and of itself. And so it's not just the working corporate women that need solutions, but it's also the low income women that also need solution. Who is coming to the office and cleaning the office? Who is providing lunches and food? Predominantly it's a lot of women that work in these roles, and we're not creating those solutions around it, and it's being completely lost in a lot of the national debates that are going on. But with the Marshall Plan for Moms, it's really that sort of a blueprint of how you can make the business more approachable, or give women a better solution on how they can be flexible, how they can make sure that if they're working shift work, that they have some kind of compensation package, that if they're not required to work that shift, then they still don't lose out on money on paying for the babysitter and travel to the actual workplace, and then having someone to actually watch their child. So it's all of these different solutions that are being lost in the conversation of what to do in the social safety nets in the private and the public sector that should exist when the woman actually has a baby. It's kind of infuriating.
So when we're talking about the Marshall Plan specifically, you mentioned that it's a blueprint. Is that kind of the goal so far of what this is going to be? Is this going to be kind of like a guidebook almost to developing different solutions to fit into your workplace? Or is there kind of a nonprofit component to it as well? And is there looking to be kind of like a fundraising effort or a true kind of like grassroots initiative?
It's more or less on the awareness side of things. So as companies are having this internal debate of how they're going to have all of their employees return back to the office, that's the piece of the conversation that they want to be included. So you can find out more information on the Marshall Plan for Moms. I think that's the exact website. Yeah, marshallplanformoms.com. And they have a full report on their website that you can download. It has, different business case, making the business case for childcare benefits, the amount of women that would actually come and work for you if you had flexible solutions in order to offer them, so they can guarantee childcare, so they can afford to pay for childcare, and they can have some of these social safety nets that don't exist in the public sector. But in the private sector, if companies are going to take all of these initiatives and into how they're going to explore a different kind of workday, then they need to make sure that they're creating those initiatives for all of their workers that are coming to the office.
Blythe, speaking of blueprints, when standards are set for any type of maternity leave, where does the U.S. sit when it comes to high OECD or high OECD countries or wealthy countries? Where do we kind of rank in terms of kind of offers or benefits for women?
Oh, near the bottom. As far as industrialized company or industrialized countries, we are ranked. The United States is ranked near the bottom. It's seen as you're a lesser worker if you take time off to be with your baby. You are a lesser worker as a man if you take time off to be with your newborn. And what happens is after the newborn is here is that there's lots of internal debate between or negotiations between the couple themselves. Who's going to take care of the laundry? Who's going to take care of cooking dinner, and then who's going to take the first shift, who's going to take the next shift. And there's a lot of negotiation that happens at home. But if the fathers, like I said earlier, 70% of fathers take 10 days or less of their paternity leave, that is essentially, I don't want to say a vacation because it's not really a vacation, but it's not enough time to really develop the bond with the child. And then at the next level, it actually create a cohesive working environment at home so that you can have some sort of a structure, some sort of a schedule, obligations that you take care at home. And then that makes you a better worker in the office, both for male and female. So the US has a lot of work to do. I think we've kind of discovered that over the last couple of years, that a lot of our institutions are being put into question. And as we talk about going back to the office and different hybrid work models, this needs to be the center of the discussion, because it affects not only mothers, but fathers as well, and their children.
Absolutely, Blythe. And you have to make sure that when you're talking about this, that you're not talking about it in a punishing way, right? You're not talking about it in well, you're staying home, you're making this choice to stay home, so we're going to punish you for that. And I wish that we had more time to talk about this, because it's something that I'm incredibly passionate about as well. But we can hear about this on Cyberly this week, correct?
No, not necessarily on this week. I'm working on a story. We still have a slightly lesser, heavier topic that we're going to be discussing on Thursday. We actually have Bianca Sanchez. She is the head of marketing over at Hirschbach. It's a very large trucking carrier. They have a lot of really cool branding in order to bring drivers in. But I'm working on this story. But whenever Cyberly comes back in a true live fashion in mid-July, so I'm going to be working more on this, finding more solutions and more ideas that hopefully we can incorporate into our work conversation and how we return to work and what that sort of looks like.
Awesome, Blythe. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for using your platform to do this work because we appreciate that, of course. We'll talk to you again soon. Right now, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back in just a few minutes.